It's weird. Going to the grocery store at this hour is the best hour. And I haven't been able to do it in a while. Pure cranberry juice is the bane of my existence. Welcome to my series, Day in the Life of an Unrecognizably Successful Writer. What does that mean? Well, unrecognizably successful to me means that it's personal triumphs. Unrecognizable success is in it's not recognized maybe by standard recognition or even by other people, but to me, I feel like I have had growing success as being a writer. The number one thing that would probably be the most external, so I shouldn't say it's the number one, but the most external one being my documentary series that I do for Elia Magazine. I don't know if you are subscribed to Elia Magazine, but it is on YouTube, and it also has a Instagram. Trying to keep up the social presence is a bit harder, but in this new phase of life, I am making it a priority again. It was a priority for a while, and then obviously a lot of things happened, including not being able to keep up with things monetarily. So besides that, time has become a factor, but honestly, it's a factor, not an excuse. So I am making it more a concerted effort to block out time where I only do Elia Magazine stuff. Technical issues be damned. Unrecognizable success. So the most external success or the most external validation for my writing has come through those documentary series. And I am the primary writer for those things. We don't have anyone else. I'm hoping that is the next step for that. Calm down. I wasn't so much concerned with staffing and growth in that arena for Elia Magazine as much as I was concerned with getting it a stable footing and making it a consistent presence. So as I work on that, then I can think about expanding, as in personnel wise, maybe getting other writers on board and stuff like that. I would love for it to be something where people could make a nice modest income from while they write for us. It might not be a very big team because of that, because I do need people to be able to live off of the money they make. So it might be a small team, but at least it would be a team of people that, you know, this could change all our lives, as in we all make a good equitable living off of our writing, off of our art. And that's the main goal for Jotted Illustrations as well, trying to make it so that artists and artisans are making an actual living off of the craft that we spend so many hours a day working on. Just like anybody else, I want to expand it even into just a lot of different arenas. So we started with media, and obviously YouTube is the best place to basically grassroots your efforts. I think it feels more grassroots, even though YouTube is a big corporation. It just feels more grassroots simply because there's no large monetary barrier to entry. Like right now I'm filming on a phone. It's an iPhone 7s Plus. Is it 7S or just 7 plus? The point is it's a 7, generation 7. We're doing this like that. But back to unrecognizable success. Unrecognizable success is because I have hit a lot of successes in my life. At one point, there was a thing called Noise Trade. It's now something else. And on Noise Trade, I used to upload a lot of poetry chapbooks. Those got a lot of downloads. I would say the highest that I've ever seen was 20 or something like that. And for somebody like who was so unknown at the time, and I feel like I used to drop them seasonally, and it was so much fun doing my little chapbooks. They were very experimental, very much so, not going with any grain of anything except how I wanted to express my poetry and like the kind of theme that I wanted to do. I loved that era of poetry chapbook release, and the fact that it was around a time where I think people were poetry fatigued. So to get any downloads per one of them was very much so more popular than all the others, and it was this one. It was a little more political in nature. Things like that I find to be successes, where people find actual organic joy in the things. I even got tipped once, because you can get tipped on Noise Trade, and so it just felt really organic. It felt really like, oh, finding an actual audience. I was very sad when Noise Trade disappeared. But that is one of my personal successes. Another personal success is right when COVID was hitting, right as COVID had almost right before they took over everything, I was accepted into my state, which is Maryland, the state of Maryland's Woman in Arts exhibition. They were going to be exhibiting a piece of my poetry there, and then they had to cancel that exhibition. They were moving it online, and they said, well, they're curating their online space. They didn't really have a way to curate the poetry, so that was quite saddening. I was very sad about that. However, the fact that I was accepted in the initial gallery thought process, or the initial gallery curation, was a success to me, and I'm going to continue to keep it as a success in my heart. The other success that I would say I have, again, unrecognizable or recognizable to me, was at the Indie Author Awards. I was nominated there, and I did not nominate myself. I was really happy. To this day, I don't know who nominated me. If you happen to watch this video, I am so thankful to you for even thinking of me as a person that should be nominated for loving my work, or liking my work, or appreciating my work, however you want to describe it at the time. I thank you. That really lit a fire under me. Getting nominated for Best New Author in the Indie Author Legacy Awards. It was like 2016 or so, I believe. And I may have forgotten the exact year, but I have not forgotten that happened, because it really changed, I think, the trajectory of how I thought about myself and writing, where I felt like it was the first time I felt like I wasn't writing into the void. I know that sounds... No, I think people who also write or started writing, you know what that means. Sometimes you feel like you're writing to yourself and just screaming into a black hole. But it showed me that people were listening, they were watching, they were looking, they were reading. And that's also what started me going on to Noise Trade to put out chapbooks. So thank you, thank you, thank you for that nomination. Nominate your indie writers today. Just anyone that you like, even if you feel like you're the only person reading them, nominate them anyway, because it gets other eyes on the work. Even if they don't win, other people now know that there's somebody out there writing, and that is somebody that you appreciate, and if you appreciate them, somebody else will appreciate them as well. Those are my biggest examples of unrecognizable success. And then the one that I mentioned earlier, which was almost breaking 10,000 views. And the first thing, I have multiple YouTube channels, and because I love doing YouTube videos, it's just a great creative place for me. But besides that, that one is more business focused in my creation, and it's my first documentary, like serious documentary topic where I did research, scholarly research, not just, you know, random inquests into Google. I was looking at other peer studies. I was looking at reviews, journals, newspaper clippings, and putting together my own, you know, storylines for the documentary. It was so much fun, and that's why I'm still doing it. There's a new series. That one was for Penny. That was for the Penny Dreadfuls. But I have a new one all about dime novels just because it got so much traction. This is part of the unrecognizable success to me. The Penny Dreadful documentary got so much traction and quite a few comments. One of them was somebody being like, I enjoyed this so much. I wish that you thought about doing a dime novel. And that is literally the reason why I was like, okay, so people are interested. So when you're leaving your comments like that, you never know, again, how much it might mean to someone. To me, it meant that people were engaging with the work that I had put so much effort in, and that my ideas going forward were actually something that was wanted, because I wanted to do a series. Because Elia Magazine is about storytelling, I wanted to do a series on the YouTube. My documentary that I pitched to me and my sister's company was that the documentary would follow certain, it would be sporadic, but they're like little mini series, and they all follow different types of literature, and just basically going into them, like literature that doesn't really exist anymore. So in this case is Penny Dreadfuls. It's the dime novel. The next one I wanted to do was pulp magazines, stuff like that. So I'll probably go back and forth, and then maybe I want to go into other countries as well. But I did stick with English ones because that's my main language. So reading the research for it, going into historical papers, taking my inferences and making factual analysis is easier done in English. But to expand worldwide would be really nice. But I can only go into the ones that I can read, and I can only read like 3 languages a little bit, but not in a scholarly way. So it's not, I don't think that's gonna work out. It was really great when I wanted to do that series, and I saw someone say, can you do one about dime novels? And I was like, yes, I can. You have no idea. Like, that's on the list. So I wasn't going to do that next, though. That wasn't going to be the next one. I actually wanted to do Pulp Fiction. And then the whole reason why was because Pulp Fiction would lead us backwards into dime novels. So I kind of wanted to jump back and forth in time. But this works out for me too, because now it's like everything from the 19th century. I'll do all of those in these first few documentary series. So in the first 19th century one was the Penny Dreadfuls. The second 19th century one is dime novels now. They bleed into the 20th century, but we're going to stick to stuff that happened in the 1800s for now because of that person's suggestion. So it gave me a nice little timeline for the list of things that I rearranged the list because of that comment. I also learned that it's really important, if you want engagement, to listen to the comment, not just listen to the comment as in pandering. If you had no intention of doing something and somebody suggests it just because they want to see you do it, that doesn't mean you have to do it, especially as a writer. You have to have your, I think, lane as a writer. Understand, not exactly stay in your lane or anything like that, but it's more like understand what lane you want to be in. Even if you're changing lanes, that's something you know have to do, regardless of if somebody's like, I wish you would just write about this, that, and the third. And it's like, well, no, because I write about this, that, and the third, that kind of thing. So when it is relevant, I say take advantage of it, because it shows that people are on the same track as you. They're respecting the lane that you have showed them you're in. So that was great to see that comment coincide with my plans, even if I moved the plans around. As like I said, I changed the order I was going to do things in. But yeah, so that's another example of unrecognizable success, but something that moves me forward. I think I've yapped enough. Let's get into more scenic day in the life. Day in the life of a writer. I need to figure out what I need to do. Break it down that week or day. Break it down and block it out into digestible and doable tasks. Love the way that you work your hips. They love the way that you bounce your hips. They love the way that you rock your hips. They love the way that you... The thing about freedom is realizing the amount of responsibility that comes in tandem. I have to prioritize and organize like anybody else. If I wake up and just do whatever comes to mind or whatever I feel like doing, nothing gets done. That's not to say that I don't take days off. I do. And that's part of being organized. And as I got better at organizing my work schedules, I realized how much can actually be done and done in a reasonable amount of time. I haven't mastered sticking to my schedules yet because there's so much backlog because of last year's multiple life detours, but I see the potential for betterment. The freedom is not freedom from rules or responsibility or deadlines. Freedom is the ability to create my own system, which I can use to keep the structure and my mental peace. That is my main goal, to be less scattered, less impulsive, and not less creative. Adding structure for me opens up my mind to be able to think more creatively, to bring my imagination to the forefront instead of being overwhelmed with scattered timelines, jumping between competing priorities, and being haunted by unfinished gems that get lost in a mental laundry pile, all because I am structureless. Everyone doesn't work this way, but more people work this way than they think, in my opinion. Deadlines are a busy-minded person's best friend. It frees up time and mental load by externally placing a roadblock on the creative's endless road to perfection. With deadlines, you see progress simply in being able to map out a finish line. You have something to look forward to, something to work towards, and you don't have to think about it. When it's D-Day, it's D-Day. It's why I have a schedule and why I'm creating a timeline for each project and breaking it down week by week. It's tedious at first, but once I complete it, it's done. And I don't have to overthink or keep reminding myself of dates and projects and worry about forgetting something. It's all right there in ink. I just need to wake up, check my schedule, and go about my day.
I started to write when I was in a lonely place, and I was writing really for me and not for publication and not for anybody. It was a way of talking. It was a way of talking then. So I talked to myself.
I don't think I could have happily stayed here in the world if I did not have a way of thinking about it, which is what writing is for me. It's control. Nobody tells me what to do. It's mine, it's free, and it's a way of thinking. It's pure knowledge.
I didn't want to end this video without giving homage to probably one of the pillars of the reason why I feel like a successfully unrecognizable writer. Even though in itself the success is the recognition, which is kind of the theme of this whole thing, right? And that's Lit Mags. Excuse me. I have a completely love relationship with Lit Mags. I don't think they've ever steered me wrong. Before I was brave enough to submit to any of them and even tried my chances, I just had a great time reading them. Back in the day, a lot of them used to post a lot of things online, but as you know, things get harder. A lot of people don't post full things online anymore. There is more of a push so that you buy the PDF, but a lot of people are doing PDF or ebook version, or e-publish, I should say, versions of literary magazines so that they're able to keep the costs as low as possible and get the readers in the same way while still being able to, sustain their business. So I always try to support that. While I'm broke, obviously, I haven't been able to do it, but I just recently purchased 3 issues at Firelit, and I've been waiting to purchase something from Firelit for a while now. They've been on my radar. Before I wrote any kind of speculative or sci-fi, I was like wanting to read what they have just because they were like really well known for being the sci-fi speculative lit magazine. So I'm hoping that as I'm trying to venture further, and I already wrote surprise, one of the things that I told you I'm editing, I wrote, it's speculative fiction. When I started it, it was supposed to be magical realism, and it just ended up being an entire sci-fi thing, so I'm not even sure you can call it speculative. I feel like it's more sci-fi. It's sci-fi and fantasy, but it's like a sci-fi fantasy. It's not a romance, it's just a sci-fi fantasy. I think it's a sci-fi fantasy literary fiction. But I'll wait to see what the editor has to say once I find one. Now that I have dipped my toe into the sci-fi world, I think Firelit is like, I just got 3 issues just to read what other people are doing, how to approach, because I have another project and it's more horror. So I want it to be a horror sci-fi, and I'm lost with direction because I'm so used to just writing literary fiction, or like plot driven fiction. This was for some reason I just fell into fantasy and science fiction. I've always consumed it via like movies and TV, but I never actually wrote it. I guess you could say one of my very first things was fantasy, because there was a talking cat, a murderous talking cat, but the murder became the plot because of my sister. That's a story for another day. Anyway, literary magazines, they are the birthplace, I think, of any writer. You read them, you see what your peers are doing, you enjoy your peers, you support your peers. I'm doing this. I'm buying another one that I found, and it's called Midnight and Indigo. But I fell in love with this cover. I hope you can see that. And this is actually going to be a physical issue. So it is a little more expensive, but I think still very affordable. It's $11.95. We're talking about sometimes literary magazines, they get up to $20 or so, and rightfully so. Those are the 2 that I'm supporting this month, and I'm making it a personal goal of mine to support the ones I like, obviously, but to try to find new literary magazines to promote. You know what I mean? Like, just because I don't think there's always something for someone. You might not like what's in these magazines, but somebody else got accepted into another magazine, and that might be exactly your style. So I have a feeling like there's so many people in this world. There's gotta be room for everyone. So there's no reason why I shouldn't tell someone about something else. You might like all of them. You can buy more than one magazine. I had to give them the last say in this video because they are the reason I pushed myself forward. Having that outside critique. Sometimes in the early days, people would give free critiques and stuff, and I understand why people don't really do it the way they did before anymore. So that's fine. But they used to give critiques in the beginning, and I took those really seriously. Moving forward, there's still some critiques that sit in the back of my head every time I'm writing, and I feel like it was invaluable to me. Even the rejections were valuable because people in the indie literary magazine sense anyway, they were able to at the time be very community centered. There was less pressure, I think, in a lot of aspects. So people had the time, they had the ability to give that little critique, and you didn't even have to really ask for it. And as times change, things change, and I don't really fault anyone for not being able to do that anymore. And I understand why people are like, if you want my critique, you need to like compensate me for my time, just because of how things have evolved economically. But those are just some reasons why literary magazines hold a special place in my heart. And not just that, when I did get accepted into some, I would list them here. 2 of them I think are defunct. But that speaks to how fast the turnover is, and that kind of made me sad when they were, I'm laughing, but it was sad when they were, you know, defunct. I'm laughing because it kind of fits this whole thing where it's unrecognizably successful, because I only have the proof of my memories, and if I can find the emails, I'll put them up here, saying that I was accepted. Literary magazines, literary sites, literary journals. Anyway, I'm gonna enjoy this cartoon before everyone gets home and my baby wakes up. Just gonna enjoy this little bit of silence in the evening.